Next song is called Soup. It's number 9 on the record. And this sounds like one of those tracks that came out of Time to Kill in probably Entourage Studio in North Hollywood, I think. And it's just us messing around with mini moogs and stuff. I think I put together the little sort of Indian feel rhythm on a Dr. Rhythm machine, which is a Boss rhythm machine. And I think it's probably going through the wobulator. That's what it sounds like to me. So it's sort of a fake tabla setup, and it's a neat little tune, and it's great where it is because of what comes next. So this next tune is Buck Owens, and probably comes from the inspiration of just all of us liking Buck Owens. We would listen to Buck Owens when we drove around the country. And then once when we were in Bakersfield, we went to the Buck Owens Museum and Theater. I think there was actually a show going on, so we were a little sad about missing that. We could hear Buck Owens playing in the other room. And I think Buzz ended up buying a Buck Owens guitar at some point. Not from there, but someplace else. But anyway, Buck Owens, the tune is kind of amazing what it does in 3 minutes. It's really feels like the prog tune on the record. That might be a little bit of an influence from just playing some shows with Rush, I don't know, or secretly listening to prog music. But we all contributed to this. And in the beginning, I'm playing a really cool little fast bass thing. There's a really riffy thing that goes on. And I'd completely forgotten about it. And when I was listening to it, I went, wow, that's pretty neat. And I think we used to play that live. The kids loved it. And also in the tune, there's some moments that straight up sound like Queen again. What the guitar is doing and the drums are doing. They sound like classic Queen filler moments, like in between parts or bridges. And then there's a really nice coda at the end of the track that starts with this A7 chord that sounds exactly like Goodbye Blue Sky by Pink Floyd from The Wall. And I wasn't really clocking that at the time we were doing it, but when I re-listened to it lately, that's what it is. It's exactly the chord. It sounds exactly like it, and it fits in there perfectly. And I write a really nice little bass melody to go over the top, which also sounds very Floyd-ish. So I don't know if, I think we were maybe connecting on a Floyd level subconsciously somehow. And that's very interesting also because Garth Richardson was friends with Bob Ezrin, who of course was the famous producer of The Wall, amongst a lot of other things. And there was a point when I was having some problems in the studio with a bass that wasn't set up properly or whatever. Garth must have just taken that in, and one day he showed up and he had a bass, and he said, how'd you like to play the bass that was used on The Wall? And I went, really? And so he pulled this bass out. I think it was a P bass maybe, or maybe it was a jazz bass. And he thought the strings had just been on there forever, so it might even be the same strings left over from then. But I played the bass from The Wall on some track. Seems like I'd be able to remember that, but it's been a long time. I'm old now. So anyway, Buck Owens is a great tune and one of my favorites on the record. Next song is Sterilized. It has me and Dale and Bill Bartell, who was the Mountie in the Honey Bucket video, playing on guitars. I'm probably doing the Air Raid sounding guitar, I think. This was sort of a go-to noise segment when audiences became antagonistic at certain shows in the 90s, which a lot of audiences seem to do. I mean, if I go through all the hassle to go to a show and it's somebody I want to see, I'm there to have a nice time. I'm not there to get angry. But a lot of these tours that we did, like Helmet and White Zombie and Nine Inch Nails, the audiences showed up and they were like, we want to fight somebody or something. It was totally weird. So I might talk about some of those in the future because I have my own personal stories that have not been told about some of those. But anyway, one of the most famous ones in Dallas with Nine Inch Nails, we probably went to Sterilized. We kind of looked at each other and gave each other a nod. And it was like, okay, now you get this. This particular version is from a live recording by Chris Kozlowski, who was a great sound man, and we did a bunch of tours with him. So this comes off something he recorded at one of those shows, and then I think Buzz overdubbed a bass on it because it sounds like Buzz playing. So there it is, Sterilized. Put it on to clear your house out at the end of a party. Lacrimosa is something that I came up with. The source of this is from the Stoner Witch demo sessions in London, where Prick was also recorded. And there is actually a 10-minute version of this. I made this version up out of 4 minutes of that 10-minute version, put all these guitar overdubs on it, and just was monkeying around with a sample from the Mozart Requiem, and I just had it on a sampler and it was just on repeat, and I kept doing processing of it and more processing of it, added a vocal to it, and just ended up playing it for Buzz and Dale, and they liked it. And so that's how it ended up on Stag. I didn't expect for it to go there, but it has its place. I have a Patreon page, and if you guys would like to check it out, you'll see exclusive content, and it also helps me to support myself and create more content. I've got unreleased material, exclusives, and I've also got a level where I'm doing essays on this fantastic record collection here, and I'm going from A to Z, and I'm picking out a record and I'm writing about it, putting up files of it made on my very own stereo. So if you would like to see more content like this, consider supporting me at my Patreon channel. Who knows, I might even play the guitar a little bit on there. So come on over and check it out. Thank you. Next song is number 13. It's Skin Horse. And this is another one that was tracked at Sound City, I think, like most of them were. I play a lot of stuff on this. I play the guitar in the interlude, I played bass, I played baritone guitar and piano also. And I think this is probably my favorite song on the record. I love the bass tone on this. It's just so full and dreamy and kind of floats around. The end of the song has this really neat little coda in 3/4 time that's unexpected. It's sort of a repeating motif. The tones on this are just really beautiful. The presence is amazing on this recording in particular. At the end, there's a sample of some Australian wind noise that I made when we were on tour down there, and we stayed up in some building in a hotel, and when I opened the window a little bit, it just sounded like this gale. So I recorded some of it, and that's what is at the end of this tune. This is a really great song. I think it's one of Buzz's great songs. It's a really nice piece of writing, and the recording and performance is wonderful on it. Next song is Captain Pungent. I kind of like I'd completely forgotten about this bass clock motif that I put in the beginning of it, which seems to work perfectly. And it's just another example of me listening to what's being created and just going, I have to just go in a totally opposite direction and create some contrapunctual information and some more harmonic stuff, because there's nothing to do with this ultimately. So this is another example of individual parts creating a bigger thing that works better than just trying to imitate something that's already happening. The drums are being reamped through the meatball box, which is making a really cool and interesting sound. And it just sort of paves the way for what's going to happen in the rest of the record. Next song is Berthas, and this one really has a 70s rock feel to me. It feels like a Skynyrd or a Kiss vamp type of 70s rock feel-good thing. It's not a particularly memorable tune for me. It seems very sort of by the numbers Melvins 70s rock, but it's interesting. It's kind of a, I don't know what to say about it really. It's just boring. It's a boring song. That's why I don't know what to say about it. You're going to put that in there. Aren't you? I don't know what to say about it. It's boring. The last song on Stag is Cottonmouth, and it's Dale's contribution to the 3 solo things. And he went completely rural blues man, and his voice sounds like it's harmonized down about an octave or something, so he's really got that mush mouth shouting type of thing. And at the time, Dale was pretty into very much bluesy type of stuff. He was listening to the Allman Brothers like crazy, and even grew a little soul patch like Greg Allman, and was into all things Allman Brothers. This is just an outcrop of that type of thing. And he was very filled with Americana at the time. I think it might be around the time when he was in the Neil Young video, Harvest Moon also, which is a cool thing. So that's the official end of Stag. So there's a couple of bonus tracks of the Japanese import CD I have. One track is an alternative take and mix of Tipping the Lion. The other track is Pink Floyd's Interstellar Overdrive. The Tipping the Lion track sounds like it's completely a different take to me. You can hear the local radio thing I was talking about just blasting through the entire thing. Incredible distorted bass tone on this, which sounds like it might be either the Voodoo bass box or the Big Cheese cranked right up. Serious noise management once again by the professionals behind the desk. And in the beginning, you can the bass is so hot you can hear me yelling through the pickups, and it's actually coming through the amps. So that's a crazy sounding version of that track, and people should seek it out. I don't know what else it's been released on. Maybe somebody could let me know, but it's on the Japanese import. So the other track is Interstellar Overdrive by Pink Floyd. We did a pretty faithful version of it, and the way that we did it was we were trying to just play the song. Then I suggested, let's just get the track and throw it on the 2-inch and play to it. So that's exactly what we did. This is considered the most faithful cover version of that virtually impossible to cover song. And we would just go through it and stop it at crucial points, listen to what they were doing, roll back, imitate what they were doing at the point where they were doing it. We just worked through the entire song like that. So it's probably me and Buzz and Dale playing guitars. I think I'm playing bass. The mix of this in the beginning even sounds like they duplicated the initial stereo mix of it, which of course has hard panning, because I think maybe it's even a 4-track mix or possibly an 8-track mix. I've only ever listened to the mono mix. I love the mono mix of it. And the end is auto panned, and that's something that makes you nauseous if you listen with headphones. And it sounds like it might even be auto panned by hand, so it's probably Joe or Garth or Chad doing it. But this is a cool and really faithful version of this song. I think we played it sometimes live. The Melvins version is 9 minutes 51 seconds. The Pink Floyd version is 9 minutes 40 seconds. So I think you can sync them up and play them together even if you have plenty of time on your hands. So like Stoner Witch, I had not listened to this honestly in 25 years or more. It's been really interesting. It's triggered a lot of interesting memories that I might talk about in another video because this has already been really long. So I kind of think that we didn't really have a game plan what we were going to be doing day to day. We got into Sound City and did the bulk of the main big recording there. There was another studio use for overdubs, and then there was the additional time at Paramount Sound for doing goggles. So there was kind of a chaotic feel to what was happening. There wasn't a really super dialed in continuous destination the way that there was for Stoner Witch, but we just floated along and worked through whatever happened to come up. And it was great to get the chance to record at Sound City, especially with Joe and Garth and Chad. All the material was kind of interesting and challenging, and we were just kind of operating like a unit. There was the basic drum and guitar and bass thing. But then once it came to overdubs, we were just in free flow mode, and we were just throwing on all kinds of stuff, and we were getting inspired by the guys we were working with and with each other, and there wasn't any sort of limitations as to what we might do. And in the end, when I heard the completed thing, it did sound somewhat disjointed to me. Nobody knows about all of this, so of course anybody who loves this record listens to it as a whole, and it hangs together as a whole. For me, it's still somewhat disjointed. I mean, I remember just the way that I felt when the whole thing was happening, and we had time limitations. And then we also made this crazy Bar X the Rocking M video right in the middle of all of this stuff happening, and did things like went to Gene Simmons' birthday party and Gregory Dark's wedding, but I'm going to talk about that in another video. So listening to it now, I have a little bit more of a feeling of unity about it. And I love the packaging. Mackie did great art, and the new art by Tom Hazelmeyer for the Third Man release is wonderful. So it's brought back some really interesting memories for me, and I hope it's provided some insight to you if you know of the record, if it's your favorite record. If you don't like the record, that's all good. I mean, it's just passed into history at this point, and I'm glad I worked on it and was able to participate and be involved in the act of creation with all those people. So it's a cool thing.